Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Forster, Global Editorial Director at Watchbox.com, and we're here to welcome you to another edition of Collector Conversations. Now, we're here in Dubai for the Dubai edition of our world tour with F.P. Journe and De Bethune, and we've brought an amazing collection of watches to Dubai for the collector community here to look at. And of course, this gives us an opportunity to meet some of the folks in the local collector communities, people who have really defined watch collecting, participated in defining watch collecting in the modern era, not only here in Dubai and here in the Middle East, but globally as well. And we have, it's a great pleasure to have with us today, Mr. Hassan Akhras, the founder of Arab Watch Guide. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's great to have you on Collector Conversations.
Great to be here as well.
So why don't we start out, I'd love to hear a little bit about you and about how Arab Watch Guide came to be and how you came to watches.
So yeah, I started collecting watches when I was young, really, really young actually. I loved watches, it was a passion, but it was nothing kind of, I would say professional or like a platform. And in 2014, when Instagram was growing and it was kind of coming up, all the social media and content creation, I was sitting with a few friends that used to work in media. And they're like, okay, you have a great passion for watches. Why don't you share it and kind of make it more obvious and create content and use the platforms that are offered? And I said, okay, so what should I do then? What are the platforms? And they were like, well, there's Instagram and you can create a blog as well. So this is what I did. Literally the next day, I just went online, created my website, called it Arab Watch Guide. Even the name came up just because I'm Arab and I like watches and I want to talk about watches. Right. So it's Arab Watch Guide and it just came up like that. And I started creating content with my watches only first, with my own collection. Mm-hmm. I started researching then. I started adding more, reading blogs and trying to find out what's happening in the watch world, educating myself, and also trying to educate, the collectors in the region. And I think the reason why I wanted to push this is at that time, again, this was 2014, 15, there weren't a lot of people in our region that were talking about watches. It was mostly people in the US or in Europe, there were the experts, or even in Asia that kind of had these blogs and platforms that were quite strong. But there was nothing coming from the Middle East. And I wanted something to kind of create that gap, to bridge that gap actually between Middle East, Europe,
One of the things that I'm always impressed by when I come to Dubai is just how strong the watch community is here, and the level of enthusiasm for watches here is amazing. I mean, I've said to several people that, since getting here, I think the density of watch collectors per square kilometer is higher here than just about any place else on earth. I mean, it's fantastic. And in 2014, was there already a strong watch community and it just wasn't sort of more publicly visible, or has it grown since then?
Yeah, it has grown tremendously. At that time, I think there were really a lot of private collectors and they were kind of hiding. There weren't too many communities, as you can see today, in kind of well-established communities. Mm-hmm. At that time, there were probably Dubai Watch Club and our club, Arab Watch Club, that established almost at the same time. And they were kind of these organized communities where they try to bring collectors together and try to do stuff that are more organized. But I think since then, a lot of things happened so fast. Like a lot of collectors started coming up, popping up. They wanted to be seen, they wanted to participate, and they wanted to share their collection. So there was a lot of growth that happened, I think, even in the past few years, 3 years. The young community, the young generation also started getting interested a bit more into watches.
And the presence of Arab Watch Guide on Instagram, the existence of Instagram, that's kind of made it possible to, kind of in a way de-regionalize dialogue about watches. You become part of a sort of a more global community.
Exactly. That was one of the reasons actually that I opened that page. It's great because you also meet a lot of collectors from the region, but also all around the world. Mm-hmm. When I get to go to Basel at that time, SIHH, now Watches and Wonders, you meet the entire community from all around the world. So I have friends now, they're in the US, they're in Asia. It's great to kind of have this global community and not just the regional one. And we're all connected, we all have the same passion. So we can exchange ideas and we can exchange knowledge. So it helped a lot, to be honest.
How do you think the watch culture here in Dubai, in particular, and in the Arab world in general, I mean, does it differ in significant ways from?
I think so, yeah. I think until today, we still have this kind of strong belief that when you collect, you have to collect Patek, Rolex, AP first, like the Trinity, and maybe now Vacheron is coming into play. And trying to introduce new brands is not as easy, I think, as in Europe or even, I think, Asia adopts new brands really faster than us. It takes much more time to push a brand, to create that brand awareness. I wouldn't say there's a lot of resistance, but there's a little bit of kind of wait.
Caution.
Yeah, caution, let me think about it. And there's always this comparison. And then you always have this super powerful presence of Rolex, Rolex and Patek, they're just super dominant.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that those, the blue chip brands are, I think, dominant, pretty much in every market. Do you think that as time goes by and as the sort of internationalization of dialogue about watches increases in Dubai, in particular, in the Arab world in general, do you think that there's going to be more of a tendency to kind of look beyond the usual suspects?
Yeah, and
do
I
you
think
see that happening now?
Yeah, it started already a few years ago. And you see a lot of collectors and well-established collectors moving away from the brands and trying to maybe find their own path and trying to talk about the independence, check all the upcoming brands, the Vacheron, FP Jaune, one of the really leading ones, MBNF as well. People love MBNF here. So you can see
Max
that.
lives here now.
Sorry?
Max.
Yeah, of course, and it helped a lot. I think it helped him to be here in the region. He's much more connected to the collectors. Again, here, I think it's one thing that is very important with the Arab world is this personal network and personal connection with the brand. And when you put a face to the brand and you can connect to him, which is what Max did, it helps a lot. It helps to reach a wider audience, and they believe in you and kind of believe in your product.
Yeah, I mean, that sense of a personal connection with the person who actually has made the watch, designed the watch, that matters, right? I mean,
it's
that's part
very
of the attraction
important
to independent horology.
Yeah, and you need to have a great storyteller as well, so you kind of sell that background story that nobody knows usually.
I mean, Max is a great storyteller. Not every independent watchmaker is good at telling their own stories.
Not much.
Yeah.
Not all of them have this capacity of telling the story pretty well. And I think when you meet watchmakers, they're very reserved usually, and they're more introvert, I guess. So when you find somebody who's outspoken and can tell the story very easily, they will shine they'll have to shine in the market.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. It's not really part of Swiss culture in general to, boast, to say things about yourself, to promote yourself. You kind of want the quality of your work to speak for itself. But if you want to be heard nowadays, you do have to have a little bit of a talent for marketing yourself.
Yeah, you need to be loud, unfortunately. Even on social media, and sometimes when I'm talking to brands and I ask them why are you so quiet, or why are you trying? It's the same argument, our product should speak to by itself, but then you're like, okay, you know what, it's super congested right now and everywhere in all the platforms. You need to do something to shine. It's not enough just to have a great product. You need a little bit of a push, you need to talk about it.
So 2014 was sort of marked the genesis of Arab Watch Guide. But before that, you were already obviously an experienced collector by 2014.
Yeah.
Do you remember sort of what were the first watches, or what was the first watch that really kind of caught your eye and made you think to yourself? I mean, this is going back to your childhood, but what do you remember?
I mean, when I was at school, I used to like the Sector G-Shocks. I think the usual suspects that people used to like. And then it started growing, and I think Breitling was one of the first brands that caught my attention. And I remember I was kind of saving up to buy the first Breitling on my own without anybody's help. Yeah. And I would always consider Breitling as my first real watch in my current collection, my permanent collection. And I still have it. And this was almost 20 years ago. I
mean, the whole sort of idea of your first real watch, your first good Swiss watch, is that watch is a really important part of your journey. I mean, for me, it was an Omega Speedmaster Professional, and that's because I'm old enough. I actually remember seeing the Apollo 11 crew walk on the moon on live television for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I saw all of the ads for Speedmasters in the magazines, and I knew it was the astronaut's watch, and I thought to myself,
I need one.
I need one of those. Yeah. And it took about 30 years
to get
one, but I
eventually you got it.
What Breitling was it?
It's the Chronomat, steel, chronograph, simple. I mean,
it's classic.
I just loved it. And when I look at it right now, it's funny. I find it very chunky for my wrist, but again, that's like 20 years ago. When I looked at it, I really wanted it. I remember I was like, this is the watch I want on my wrist. And I started changing the straps. I think I had, because I have a thing, by the way, I really love changing straps.
Yeah.
And I had that even when I first started collecting. I always remove the first strap, and I have to put something on my own. Either I designed or just something very different.
So you got the Chronomat. Did you change the strap?
I changed it. I changed it into, I don't know how they're called now, the sports where they have the holes in it. And I just put that on instead.
So like a rally strap?
The rally,
with
the
holes
rally
getting
straps,
smaller and smaller?
exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's
and
a
I
cool
think it
strap
fit
to
it
watch.
super well. And I still have it on that strap until today. It's there in the box waiting.
What came after the Breitling?
So then I started collecting Jaeger-LeCoultre, and I really loved that brand. And I started, I got the reverso, and then I got some of the Géophysique, and then the Geomètre. And these are kind of a few years back. And when the Geomètre was released, it's not immediately after that. But these are like some of the more interesting pieces and the bigger pieces.
So you must remember some of the unusual sports watches that they were doing at the time as well.
Yeah, with the cars as well, and the alarm.
Yep. And you remember the Squadra?
The Squadron.
Squadra square, the square reversos.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Not a huge commercial hit.
No, I don't think, and not all of them actually did work pretty well. Even the ones, was it the Memovox where you can open the car with it?
Yeah.
I don't think there was a huge hit. I like the watch, but I don't think it was a huge hit for them.
Yeah.
But again, I think these are very particular and they need a certain kind of type of collector or somebody that would appreciate it. And it's not easy to hit the right spot every time.
You have a custom engraved reverso, I believe.
Yes, the red version, rouge. And it's an interesting story because I was in Rome when I bought it, and I was looking for a special reverso, and I was with a friend walking around, and we went to Jaeger, and he spotted it. I didn't even, he found the watch. It was kind of hidden somewhere. Right. And he's like, you should look at this one. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, what is this? I said, it's the boutique red, very special piece. We don't have a lot of those, and it's our last one. And I said, okay, give me some time because I wasn't prepared financially to buy it. So I wasn't ready to, swipe the credit card. So I went out and I was doing my calculations. Can I afford it? I cannot afford it. Can I do this or not? When you get all your demons trying to push you to buy it. And the other side, you're like, no, wait for it. Maybe it's not the right time. And I just kept walking around for 30 minutes. And then I came back. I was like, I want to buy it. That's it. I love it. And I said, okay, I want to commemorate this memory and kind of all that experience of buying that watch in Rome by engraving the Colosseum because the store is right next to it. It's very close. And I said, and so I went to Jaeger and I gave them the watch and I kind of drew, I found a proper drawing of the Colosseum. And I said, can you engrave that with the date in Roman, in Roman numerals? So that was a very cool watch.
I'm a huge fan of the reverso. I mean, I love Jaeger in general. Yeah. I think that their role in the evolution of modern watchmaking in Switzerland is, to this day, I think is really underappreciated. Yeah, and I always thought the reverso was such a fantastic watch. And, if you love something, you sort of say to yourself, why doesn't everybody else love it as much as I do? And I always thought that the reverso was, I know that it's doing well now, but it was never a hype watch per se.
Yeah. I remember even when I bought it, people were like, you're too young for it. No, it's not your age. Why are you wearing a reverso? It's it's an old guy's watch. I said, no, it's very classical. I wear suits most of the time usually, so it's perfect. I can wear it. It's slick. It's slim. It's a 1931, so it's even the slimmer one. Yeah. For me, it was the perfect choice. But yeah, I understand.
It's a super elegant watch, and one of the things that I have said and thought and written about several times, and in the U.S., for instance, the whole idea of a so-called elegant watch, it's a little bit of a foreign concept, right?
Okay.
I think in the U.S. market, everybody loves steel sports watches, but Rolex is by far the number one watch in the United States. Yeah. It's the number one watch in a lot of markets, but it doesn't feel the same way on the wrist, and it doesn't give the same impression as a watch that you would describe as elegant. So we go back in your own collector journey as a collector. You start out with a Breitling Chronomat, as your first good watch, and that's a it's a chunky watch. It's assertive. It's aggressive. It's got kind of a technical feel to it. Breitling, history of aviation. It's a watch that's really kind of right in the center of gravity for a lot of people in terms of what you're going to like is an expression of a spirit of adventure. Yeah. And you've got something on your wrist right now that's about as far from a Chronomat
prize watch that I got last year actually. Yeah. And this is the Crash and it's a pièce unique. So I kind of commissioned it last year. I asked Cartier basically last year, a year ago. I was at the manufacturer and I was visiting with some of the club members. And we were having lunch with the team, and I just threw the idea because I know how difficult it is to order a Crash, and it's not that simple. And I just said, I was talking about it as a watch, and I was telling them I always admired the Crash. I always wanted one. But I said I didn't want the current ones because I don't want to have like a yellow gold with just a white dial or a black dial with platinum and those combinations. I wanted my own combination. And I've never seen a green dial with a yellow gold. So I asked them, I was like, look, if I ever decide to send you a request with that kind of brief, yellow gold case with a British green dial, the green cabochon, green strap, everything, would you accept it or are you going to reject me and tell me, sorry, we don't do that? And the guys looked at me, it's like, oh, wow, this is a great idea. We've never been asked this kind of combination before. And
I've never seen one. I mean, I don't think it's ever existed.
No, it's the only one so far. I think the blue one existed. There's Waco's blue, and then Ericu as well. But I don't think they've done a green before. And then so I sent them brief, literally, and I said, this is what I want. This is how I want it. I want my name to be engraved at the case back. And then I got the approval literally like a few weeks later, and they said, okay, you get your watch next year. And I got that in August 2022.
So the watch is delivered. Where did you pick it up?
Dubai, actually. Yeah, in Dubai Mall.
How did you feel when you saw it for the first time?
To be honest, I was worried because I haven't seen.
I'm sure.
I've only seen the renders, and I've loved the render colors. The green color was perfect on the render, and I was always wondering, is it going to look the same, in real or not? And funny enough, the first moment I saw the watch, I was in the room where the lighting wasn't too good. So I looked at it and I couldn't see the right color of the green. I was like, ooh, is this correct or not? Is it the right one? And then I moved around a little bit in the boutique and I just saw the shade and I said, oh, that's perfect.
I mean, there's so much anxiety with seeing a watch for the first time. Whether it's a limited edition or not, and you buy on the internet, you don't necessarily get a chance to see the watch before you actually receive it. And even if it's a watch that you're familiar with in person, you've seen it in the boutique, it doesn't really compare to the experience of taking it home and kind of like living with it on a daily basis. And one of the strangest experiences that I've ever had was I had a watch years ago, which is today one of the quote unquote hype watches. And I was absolutely thrilled to get it. It was a gift. And I took it home and I put it on my nightstand. And I woke up the next day and I put it on. And this is a watch that is like an incredibly important watch in the history of modern watch design over the last 50 years. Like I said, what's today considered a hype watch. Yeah. And I knew all that at the time. I put it on and I just felt nothing.
No connection.
No connection at all. No connection at all. And I mean, I tried and tried and tried to like it. Yeah, and then I realized I was trying to like it. Yeah. And I ended up selling it. And the only thing that I regret about selling it is that I didn't wait so I could sell it for more than I sold it for. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah,
and it's scary. You order something like that, and you make there's a huge emotional and financial commitment that you make as well.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
But you just don't know until you see it.
You don't. And again, I mean, this is a Crash. So the whole story behind it is like, they always tell you you're so privileged that you got one. You have to be happy that you got a Crash. You can't complain. Like it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I was
Here's
always
the greatest watch in the world, and you're happy with it, or else.
Yeah, exactly. So no, but I'm really happy with it. It's a lovely watch. It's great to wear it. And we were talking about how it's not an easy watch to wear.
Right.
It doesn't sit perfectly on the wrist for some people. So luckily, I have a small wrist. It sits perfectly on mine. But if you have a larger wrist, I think you're going to suffer a little bit to have this perfect shape and that rounded shape. So I don't think it's a watch for everyone. It's not an easy watch to wear.
The amazing thing about the Crash is that the case design and the sort of the way the metal kind of flows through the exterior of the case and in and out of the back. It's something that's really hard to appreciate from pictures. I mean, I had an opportunity to spend a week or so with a Crash for a review when I was at Hodinkee. And I really didn't quite understand just how sophisticated the design was until I'd actually, held one in my hands. I mean, everything from the case design to the
you have to see the curvatures. You don't see those in pictures at all.
No, you don't. You really don't.
You need to hold it.
Would you call yourself a Cartier fan?
I love Cartier.
Well,
I'm a big Cartier fan.
Well, you brought some fantastic watches with you today for us to look at. Now, you said before we sat down that you thought to yourself before coming in, I don't necessarily want to bring the usual suspects.
Yes, I decided not to bring any Patek or AP or Rolex just because, I mean, I know people have seen a lot of those. I said maybe bring something that people don't see much. And these are some of the projects I've worked on either for myself or for the club members.
Right.
And they range from the G-Shock to the Piaget Polo, you know. It's a big range. I didn't choose just the super high-end ones.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, why don't we start with the Pasha? Let's talk about that one since we're on the subject of Cartier.
Yeah, so the Pasha, basically, it's a project that we did last year. It's a collaboration for the club. And what we wanted to do, so Cartier released first their Middle East edition in green. It was a Pasha green with the Indian numerals, but they left the dates in Arabic, so English. And we looked at it and we said, okay, we need to fix that. We need to do something that is really like fully Arabic.
Right.
So I went to the team in Cartier and I said, guys, look, we'd love to do something for us, for the club members, but a bit different. We wanted to use a Cartier red dial. And then we wanted everything to be Indian numerals, everything, the date, the numerals, everything. And then we added...
I should just, I'm interrupting you, but so you're calling them Indian numerals.
Yeah, it's always confusing.
I mean, in the Western world, a watch with what you're calling Indian numerals on the dial is called an Arabic dial watch, which is not the same thing as Arabic numerals.
Yeah, it's not. That's the thing, because to be honest, I always have this discussion on Instagram and it just never ends. Whenever, like these numerals, if I say Arabic numerals, people will shout at me and they say, no, it's Indian numerals. So now I'm always being careful. I say Indian numerals, fine.
I mean, I ran into that as well. I did a piece when I was at Hodinkee on, these numerals and how they kind of evolved and the difference between Arabic numerals and, how these numerals were more in use in the Eastern Arabic world.
Yeah.
And the quote unquote Arabic numerals, kind of developed in the Maghreb. And I mean, I thought it was a really kind of like, thoughtful, considered article. I was not aware of having any advocacy or anything for, and boy, oh boy, people, I heard from people.
Because there are all these nuances and there are all these changes. And I think people sometimes, they take it a bit too personal. But yeah, so there's only one more thing on that watch, which is the Arabic calligraphy. And we kind of had this debate whether we should add something to the case or not. And then we said, okay, we want to make this piece quite special and unique. So we kind of commissioned a calligrapher to write a sentence, like it's a nice sentence in Arabic. And he just designed the calligraphy and then we wrote it in the same color as the dial in red. That's the Pasha.
You want to tell us what the sentence is?
Yeah, so in Arabic it says "Al-waqtu mu'allim and la mu'allima lahu," which means time is master of all, in kind of a philosophical sense of it.
I mean, watches are kind of philosophical objects, aren't they? You have something on your wrist that lets you actually see time passing.
Yeah, I mean, you're always running after time, right? So that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's kind of like trying to catch it, and it's always dominating you, basically. So that's the whole point of it. It's just that you cannot capture time. You don't have control over it. You have no power over it. It actually has power over you.
Yeah.
So that was like the philosophical meaning behind the watch.
It gives us a little bit of a sense of control over it, maybe to wear a wristwatch, but it's also a reminder that you don't control it.
You don't, yeah.
And on the opposite end of the cost spectrum, but an absolutely cool watch nonetheless, we've got a G-Shock.
G-Shock, yes.
A G-Shock. And, I've spoken to so many people here, just since arriving 2 days ago, who collect at the high end, but also love G-Shocks and collect G-Shocks. And I think that it's something maybe some people who are active in the watch community and who are active in watches commercially and as collectors, they don't necessarily understand that G-Shocks have a lot of appeal if you're a serious watch collector.
Absolutely. A lot of people love it, and it has a sentimental value also. I don't think I've met any collector that didn't collect G-Shock in his childhood or has some of them or has tried any of them.
At least
three. Me too. And this piece is to be honest, this piece is very sentimental to us because so we did this project a few years ago, I think in 2019, and we collaborated. So I reached out to Casio in the Middle East, and I was like, okay, I'd love to do an edition for the Middle East, for the club, and I've never seen you do anything for us, like locally for the Middle East. And they had the discussion, and we said, okay, which watch would we decide to work on? So we decided on this one. And the customization was that we could write. And again, I love calligraphy and I love like poems and Arabic poems. So we customized the strap, and we had somebody to kind of wrote the calligraphy all across the strap. And then what's really, really special about the piece is that we flew to Japan to the manufacturer, and we collect all of us, and we collected the watches. And then Hassan kind of signed every single watch with the date and his name. And that experience for most of us was extremely unique. We've never had that before.
So this is just for people who are watching who might have missed it. The watches are actually signed by Kikuo Ibe,
By
the inventor of the G-Shock.
Yeah, the guy who basically invented the watch. Yeah. And it was such a pleasure to see him, with his stylo or whatever it's called, the pen, and he's sitting on the table and he's like going over every single watch and what's your name? Okay, and he started writing on it. So that whole experience, even though the watch costs $500,
right.
But the whole emotion behind it and the experience is worth more than anything else you can get.
I mean, the whole story of the G-Shock is just so fantastic. It's got the best origin story of any watch I've ever heard of. The only watch to ever have been beta tested by being thrown out of a fourth floor bathroom window.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he tells the story with a lot of pride when he tells it every time.
Yeah.
The whole development of the watch.
For sure. And then there's kind of in the same vein as the Cartier. I mean, I feel like there's a little bit of a relationship in terms of the mood it projects between the Cartiers that you've brought and this watch, the Vacheron
1921, yeah.
1921.
And it's actually, since I have a small wrist, it's not a big watch, so I actually opted for the smaller size. So that's a 36 millimeter and not the 40, in white gold. I think. For me, I prefer that version in white gold and not in rose gold. I just think it I don't know why it fits the tone.
It's got a little bit more of a kind of vintage Art Deco feel, especially in platinum.
Exactly.
Or white gold, excuse me.
White gold, even the platinum version also has this feel. But it's one of my latest also purchases. I got that end of last year. I'm just playing around with the straps again. So that's a new strap in orange. I'm just trying to break the whole vintage looking feel with, in your face colored straps.
How do you feel about it so far?
I love this. I really love it. The shape of the watch, the way, it's tilted. I like these, these kind of designs. It's not a usual watch, I would say.
And you have a Piaget Polo here also, which I think was also a limited edition.
Yeah, so this is the last project that we did, and I think it was the first time that Piaget does any kind of project, special editions. And we wanted to play around with this contrast between a salmon dial and a khaki subdials with this khaki as well rubber strap. And we just received our watches 2 weeks ago, so it's fresh off the oven.
Yeah. And again, there's always a little bit of anxiety before you see the actual watch.
Yes, this one because for the Pasha, we saw the dial before. They sent us the dials and we approved them. But for the Piaget, we've seen like a quick prototype in December, but then it was already finalized. So it was hit or miss hit.
Well, it came out
but it was a hit. No, it was very nice. And this is one of the watches, to be honest, very difficult to take in pictures to get the real colors.
Yeah.
So I tried several times to get that salmon shade because it's a little bit pinkish, to get it right on any pictures, and I'm not getting the right shade still.
I mean, watches in general are really, really hard to shoot. I've worked with several really experienced product photographers over the years who ended that the first pictures of watches that they tried to take were absolutely terrible. And it wasn't because they were bad photographers, it was just because they hadn't tried to shoot a watch before. And there's so many specific challenges with shooting watches. Controlling depth of field, making sure that you get the colors right, controlling reflections.
It's not easy. Yeah, watch photography is not easy. It's not as simple as people would think it is.
I honestly think that at this point, there are a lot of enthusiasts producing much, much better watch photos than the brands themselves.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I know his account name was waitlisted. He's excellent. His pictures are just fabulous.
Yeah.
You're like, I want to watch.
Right.
I want to watch now.
Well, I mean, every watch has its own personality, has its own character, and there's a little bit of a tendency, unless you are a watch enthusiast yourself, to kind of make every watch look the same. You're like, it's a watch. Okay, I know how to take pictures of a watch. Anyway. But to actually be able to see what it is that makes a watch an individual, and to bring that out in a photograph to really romance the watch. Or not even romance it, just let it reveal itself for what it is. I mean, it's a difficult thing to do. And if you're not a watch lover, you're not going to see what it is that another watch lover would want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
And so the last two pieces that we have on the tray, we were talking about Indian numerals. These are both Indian numeral.
So one of them it's the Laine one is a mix between Indian numerals and Roman numerals, and I kind of wanted to do this Cali dial, but in a different way. So I try to play around and see which combination would work best, and I came up with this one. It's a beautiful watch, and I love this watchmaker. He's very creative in the dials that he creates, and this is a grainy kind of fumé orange dial. So you can see like the color just spreads from like orange to a bit darker brownish outer shade. And if you look closer, it's like a grain dial. It's like a hammered dial. And the movement is just beautiful as well. I mean, it's just fantastic.
So I was mistaken. The watch next to it is not an Indian dial watch.
No. So the next one is the Holthinrichs, and it's even more special because it's the first time that the hands, the hour and the minute hands, are made out of a calligraphy. It's a word. So basically, whenever the hand meets every hour, they will meet one time, and they will form a word, which is al-hikmah, which means wisdom. And every hour you get wisdom.
That's beautiful. What a beautiful
So that's
idea.
that was something.
Is that your idea?
Yeah. So I came.
Wow.
I went to Michael and I told him, look, I want a dial that had this. This is called the Mashrabiyya pattern, and it's a titanium dial. So it's very kind of Islamic architecture. You would see it around here in Dubai a lot as well, in the old city, and you can see it in a lot of the buildings. It's a nice way of using the architecture. So we used that on the dial, and then I told him I'm going to ask you for something very difficult to do, which is to create the hands as a word. And it took him a lot of time to get the right cut and to be able to get them right, because I don't think it was a very simple task to do. And I remember he was like, I'm having a bit of difficulty getting them right, because you also need the tips to be correct. So you know how to read time as well.
It has to line up exactly. And you have to be able to tell the time.
And you have to be able to tell the time. And then when they merge at the right time, you have to be able to read the words correctly.
So as a group, what does Arab Watch Guide do locally, and how do you kind of try to, are you trying, I assume you're trying to reach a larger, more international audience as well? Yeah,
so there are two, it's split. The Arab Watch Guide is a platform where I talk about watches, the industry, the news, projects. It's a larger community, I would say. It's open for, it's international, local, regional, and everything. And the club itself, it's more of a private collectors club, and it's more regional because we need to see each other. We need to be here. It's much more difficult to have people, because I've been asked this question a lot from collectors from Europe, from Paris, even from the US. Can we join the club? And I always say, honestly, it's very difficult just because events like today and any kind of events that we do in the region, you need to be here. You're not going to fly from France to come to the event.
Yeah.
So it makes it a bit more kind of focused in the region. And that's what we try to do. We try to meet up, educate each other, and create projects like these, special editions, collaborations with brands, or even visiting the manufacturer. That's something I love to do as well. Creating these small trips. We do like these road trips, and we visit 3-4 manufacturers, for example. We used to try to do this on a yearly basis. COVID hit us, and we slowed down a little bit. But hopefully we'll try to do this again this year.
You have an extremely distinguished collection. I feel like I can say that safely, even just based on the watches that you brought, with you today. And I mean, that's a little bit of a personal statement as well, because I feel like our tastes overlap a little bit. I mean, I'm a huge Cartier fan. I absolutely love the Pasha. I think that I think it doesn't get this version of the Pasha, but the Pasha in general. I think that it doesn't quite get the recognition that it deserves, certainly in the United States. Where do you see yourself going as a collector moving forward? Or, I mean, do you have any sort of premeditated notion of where you'd like to go next, or is it more organic for you?
It's more organic, I think, and it's evolving because, for example, my love for Cartier kind of grew exponentially in the past 4 years. So before that, I admired the brand, but I think I wasn't that enthusiastic about collecting specific pieces. And then this started... when they started reviving the CPCP pieces and kind of launching one at a time, the Cartier Privé collection, it caught my attention. I said, "Oof, wow! There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to collect also here." And so this, for example, was never calculated or I never thought that I'm going to get into that. And ever since, I'm in love with the brand. Like people think
it's incredible. You look at. Cartier watch designs under Louis Cartier, from like the period of 1918, 1919. up until the mid 1930s, and there are just no stinkers. I mean, and a lot of those watches have been in production on and off ever since.
Yeah.
You put a Tank LC on your wrist today, and you're basically looking at exactly what you would have seen if you'd put one on your wrist in 1925. It's an incredible cultural legacy.
Yeah, and there are so many shapes, and that's a beautiful thing about this brand also, that they have this diversity in shapes that no watch is like the other. So you can actually have 10 different Cartier that are not the same at all.
We think of the Crash as a modern classic, but in its time it was completely unprecedented.
Yeah. I would love to own one of the early ones, maybe one day. We'll see, but for now I'm happy with this one.
There's just not many of them.
They're not, and I've seen the auction results are insane, like 1.5 or whatever.
Well, I mean, speaking of things like rising prices and auction results and all that jazz, I mean, is there any advice that you would give for somebody they love watches, they're learning about them for the first time? Is there any advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out in terms of what to look at and how to educate themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very important to ask a lot of questions, reach out to, there are a lot of platforms now online, and we're all there. So it's really good to kind of ask us and ask people around, not run after the hype pieces, but really ask, what is out there? What are the offerings out there within your budget or whatever you want to collect? And also you have to decide yourself, what do you like to collect? It's what fits you. Maybe a hot piece, one of those sports steel watches are amazing, but maybe it doesn't fit your style or your lifestyle, and it's not the right watch for you. Even though everybody, anyone in the world, you will ask them, you have to buy this watch, you have to have it in your collection. For me, I don't agree in this, you have to have it in your collection. There's no such thing. If it doesn't suit you, then it just doesn't suit you. But the problem with, I think, young collectors today is they don't ask questions a lot, and they don't, they just follow the majority of the people. And again, on social media, if you just watch, if you just scan pages, you're going to see the same watches over and over again. So you would say, oh, okay, then this is what I need to buy, which is, again, not the right approach, I would say. Just find the right people, ask them, get some advice, think about it yourself, and then make the decision at the end.
Do you have any advice for somebody who's a watch lover who's coming to Dubai for the first time? Say, I've never been to Dubai before. I know there's a strong, vibrant watch culture here. Where should I go? What should I look at?
I mean, in terms of buying watches or just meeting people?
Both.
Buying watches, you have them all in Dubai Mall. All the brands are here, just to go there. You have most of the brands. I don't think it's the same experience as buying watches in Europe, for example, in the US. But meeting people, I think you can reach out to the clubs, and I'm pretty sure there's always something happening. You can just kind of tag along.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on Collector Conversations, and thank you for bringing these watches in. I mean,
pleasure.
These are absolutely all fantastic. Congratulations on the Crash.
Thank you so much.
I'm not ashamed to say I'm nakedly envious. It's just such a beautiful piece.
Thank you so much.
And great having you on the show.
Pleasure.
Hopefully it's
Thanks
not the
a
last
lot.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.